Ms. Anderson, if you can get us started on YouTube. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Governance and Priority Committee meeting for June 6, 2023. We have an agenda in front of us. Mr. Coleman, are there any additions or deletions?
Nothing from administration, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Looking for someone to move the agenda as presented. Councillor Scobie, thank you very much. Comments, questions? All in favor? Thank you. Minutes of the April 4th, 2023 Governance and Priorities meeting. Councillor Wanchuk, thank you very much. All in favor? That is unanimous. We have 4 presentations this morning, so let's get started with Mr. Bartlett for the Wizard Lake Watershed and Lake Stewardship Association. Dean, are you doing an introduction?
No introduction.
No introduction required. Okay. You're the clicker girl. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Bartlett.
Good morning, all, and thanks for having me here. I'm Blake Bartlett. I'm the chair of the Wizard Lake Watershed and Lake Stewardship Association. So we'll get going. Just a bit on who we are. Wizard Lake Watershed works towards enhancing and protecting the stability and enjoyment of Wizard Lake for the benefit of all users and watershed inhabitants. So we have a fairly large board. We have an 18-member board. So a big, good cross-section of the community at large. And so over the past number of years, we've struggled with trying to get our message out to the people. So about 3 years back, we decided to change the strategy a bit, and we would take the message to the people rather than have the people come to the message. So what we did in 2 years ago, we produced a ring binder with a various number of documentations in it. We delivered that in 2021 to some 450 watershed residents, not just lake users, but the whole watershed farming community as well. So then to carry on with that, in 2022, we've produced a technical memorandum, and Dean will be sending it out to everybody digitally. So that'll be coming out shortly. Okay. So special meetings that have happened since I presented last is that we were fortunate to get a meeting with our MLA, Rick Wilson, and our MP, Mike Lake, and spent an hour at each. And so that was good conversation. We discussed the capacity of the lake, watershed boundaries, and restoration projects, and some financial talk as well of whether the province can help our groups like ourselves out with some financial assistance. So they said that they would take it back to their appropriate people, and hopefully we'll get some response from those. So next, good things happen around Wizard Lake. So I've got to read a little of this because my memory's not as good as it used to be. So what we do in cooperation with Parks and Rec people, we've done various awareness signage throughout the entrance points to the lake. Through the course of the year, we install the navigational buoys and speed buoys throughout the lake and take them out again in the fall. There again with the support of Dean's team. So there again, we do some boating awareness activities around the lake, ice fishing awareness and safety, summer, winter, and debris cleanup off the lake. Some winters we get a pile of excess product, I guess, if you want to call that, left on the lake. So we're about to clean all that up. During the summer and winter both, we work with Alberta Lake Management. We do a summer monitoring system, collecting some data from the lake itself. And then we do it the last 3 years, I guess, we've done a winter sampling as well to determine how much oxygen is left in the lake and how much nutrients. So that's kind of an interesting program, but it's ongoing. And Blakey looks after the weir and the fish ladder as well. So that keeps me connected with the Department of Public Works and Ag Services. So the events for 2023, so we've got a Canada Day parade on July the 1st. We have 50 to 75 boat parade on the lake. And so it's quite an event. And then we have fireworks at night pending regulations. This year as well, with the New Humboldt Community School, we're going to do an environmental career day with them on June the 23rd. So there'll be a number of people there. As well, we work with the New Humboldt School on a citizen science program on our monitoring our floating island situation. We have 5 floating islands in the lake, and they grow plants and uptake nutrients, and it's a story all by itself. When we have more time, I'll take that over. So then we do the staff reading for the lake levels. We do that weekly, there again for the Alberta government. And we've had our 2024 or 2023, I'm sorry, Triad event and scheduled 2024 in February the 10th of 2024. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. So our Triad event for 2023 is passed. Huge response. We had 700 participants,
Wow.
double of what we ever anticipated on.
My
We
first
run
thought
out of
was
everything.
Dale Park, but that's beside the point.
We ran out of hot dogs. We served up 45 dozen hot dogs.
Amazing.
Oh,
Great job.
It was a great day. And see pictured there, 2 little guys that we have door prizes every 15 minutes. And they were happy about they got their door prizes. So that was a great event this year. So upcoming for throughout this summer, through Dean's team's help and our group, we were successful in a grant from Land Stewardship Centre. And it's a grant that we collectively decided that we should have better signage with Dean's support here throughout the park area, especially on the walking trails and hiking trails. So we're in the midst of getting those signs thought about. We've went to the community to get some pictures of real life photos of animals and birds and the likes of that. And we'll place those around strategically around the trail area. So that's our project number 1. Project 2 for this summer, here again, with Dean's help, we got a grant from North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance to do a restoration project. And so it's a riparian restoration as well as the upland restoration on an ER in the east end of Wizard Lake. So, or MR, sorry, MR. So that project will go throughout the summer and into the fall. And our last project for the year, we're in the midst of getting some paperwork shuffled around for a WRP grant for some restoration work on the south side of Wizard Lake. So that's kind of in the progress. So I thank the County of Leduc for all of their support throughout the last several years, and more so their help this year with helping us write grants and the likes of that. So open to questions.
Thank you. Just before I check for any questions, on behalf of Leduc County, we'd like to thank you and all of the watershed members for the work that you do. You do on behalf of not only the lake, but all the members here and at council. It's work that we don't have to do because you guys do it lovingly with very capable hands and minds. And it also ensures that that resource is managed the very best it can for both Leduc County residents and Wetaskiwin County residents and other people who choose to visit there. So thank you. And please thank your team as well.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Bartlett? Go ahead, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Just a question on your binders that you had sent out last year. What was the residents' buy-in, and do you see them actually taking advantage of the information that's in there to help keep the health of the lake viable?
Yes, there was a great buy-in, and what we've seen now as some of the residents change hands to the next people, they're calling and actually saying, what is this all about? And how can we stay connected? So the buy-in was super good. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Bartlett, what's kind of and I don't know what the term is, but what's the population just around the lake? So between the 2 subdivisions in Leduc County and whatever there is on Wetaskiwin, what's the population?
Within the watershed, we have about 372 residents.
Okay. And that pushes back beyond the shoreline, correct?
Yeah, not so much on the Leduc County side, they were only a mile or so.
Great.
But on the Wetaskiwin side, we're 2.5 miles back.
Yeah, it's
So
quite,
to
yeah,
encompass
quite
quite-
populated through there. Yep. Thank you. 300 and some. Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah,
Beloser.
nice to see you again, Blake. As a part of the Pigeon Lake Watershed Association, it's nice to see you. We've been working well together with both watersheds, but you did mention the North Saskatchewan watershed where I happen to live in. How close is the North Saskatchewan watershed to Wizard Lake watershed?
Okay,
Like, are you in it?
Yeah, Wizard Lake's watershed is completely in the North Saskatchewan watershed line.
Okay, because I was wondering about that, because you said grants.
Yeah, the boundary is about 3 miles to the south of Wizard Lake as the actual water flow to the north.
Okay, thank you for that.
One of the issues, Mr. Bartlett, that I always hear about, and I'm sure you hear about, and you addressed it with Mr. Lake, was capacity on the lake. The lake gets very, very busy. Did Mr. Lake have any, just made that connection. Did Mr. Lake have any ideas for how other municipalities or how other lakes have limited capacity? Because that becomes a very difficult thing to do, I think. So had he had any experience in that?
No, he didn't at the
Okay.
time, but he assured me, and I said, I'll definitely come to Ottawa if you can get the connections to support some kind of conversation.
Okay.
And that's basically what we're doing, is opening that door to see what other people do.
Right. And it's about beginning to look at the issue before there's a big issue on the lake, correct? It's about that, a bit of awareness. I'm just going to turn to Mr. Honesty. Do you know of any municipalities where they have been successful in doing anything like that?
We've met with Transport Canada several times. It's very limited. Our focus the last several years has been around that education and awareness,
Safety.
right? So the capacity is a factor when we talk about on the lake, but the education awareness and boating safety is really the key factor. And I think we've seen a lot of improvement there through the work that they do around signage education and through the work that we do to make sure that people understand how to do it safely, which then addresses some of your capacity issues that come with it. So
One of the conversations I heard from residents who will phone me and tell me it's busy is the notion around wakeboards or wake boats. I assume we can't say you can't bring your wake boat on them.
correct. There's no limitation that can apply to the amount of wake because every boat makes a wake.
Right.
So there's no measurement of the amount of wake.
How do you measure?
How you can, so that's where the difficulty comes in is, this much wake versus this much wake. And
Yeah.
so that's been one of the factors that we've.
Well, I'm please let me know if you hear any ideas. I'd be happy to go and have conversations as well with you, Mr. Bartlett, or you, Mr. Honesty, about how do we keep the lake safe? And it might be about capacity, it might be something else, but we need to always be looking at that. So thank you. Councilor Beloser?
Yeah, just one other thing, and this is probably provincial wide too, is invasive species. Have you got any signage, or are you thinking of signage to maybe, or is there any boat checks going on down at Wizard Lake as far as that?
Yes, there
Species
is
of-
boat checks carried out throughout the year. We do have some signage, but and then we do during our park day and Canada Day events, then we hand out pamphlets and the likes of that as far as invasive species and other awareness issues that we have.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation and your hard work again. I'm going to look for someone to move that for information. Councillor Lewis, thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous. We'll go and have a beautiful day at the lake.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Riley Miller to talk about the Rise Up Society Alberta.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
And no introduction here again, and you're not even doing the slides. Look at that.
Allowed me to stay here though.
I like that. I think
You can warm the seat for me.
it's okay. So whenever you're ready, Ms. Miller.
Perfect. So my name is Riley Miller. I'm the Executive Director of Rise Up Society Alberta. I have been the Executive Director now since April 2021. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what our agency has been doing with you guys today. So if you don't know who we are a registered charity that provides counseling services for those impacted by intimate partner violence. We have recently changed the clients that we see to 16 plus, just because we have been receiving a lot of referrals from schools, other agencies for teens to see us. So for reference, in 2022, we delivered over 1,000 counseling sessions, and those are free counseling sessions. And I think that we can all understand that mental health therapy is very, very hard to access for a lot of people. So we are providing that need. As of 2022, we've also started a new initiative by providing psychoeducational programming. So mental health first aid, and also presentations in schools relating to safe dating, consent as well. My community facilitator recently completed a vicarious trauma training for Leduc County, and I think it went pretty well. Dean attended, so he was there. So those are some of the basic things that we are doing as an agency. Operationally, we have a board of 8 and we have 3 staff. So we're a small but mighty team. Myself as the executive director and the full-time counselor, we are both full-time. And then we also have our part-time community facilitator, and we operate Monday through Friday during regular business hours. Here's a little bit of what our clients look like as of 2022. Many of our clients come from various sources. A lot of them come from self-referrals. They hear about us through a friend, a family member. Some other ways is through FCSS, Leduc County, for example, police victim services. And sometimes a lot of our clients are not comfortable disclosing how they heard about us as well. And then residents for our therapy clients. Again, they come from various parts of our region, but we do get a decent amount still from Leduc County, as you can see in our chart there. So with Leduc County, we're hitting about 13% of the clients are coming from Leduc County. And then how Rise Up continues to operate. So grants, that being from Leduc County, we appreciate this continued support. Without grants such as those, we would not be able to operate. Donations, we have a lot of people that are supporting us, a lot of private donors, sponsorships, fundraising. We were recently selected as the charity, one of the charities to benefit from the Edmonton International Airport golf tournament that will be happening September 18th. So if you like golfing, there's an event coming up that's going to be benefiting 3 charities. And then of course, our focus is always our clients. So I've included here just some basic quotes that have come from the people that we serve, just to reflect the work that we do and the impact that it does carry. So I can just leave it up there, or you can take a look at it at another time. But we have found that our work goes past the clients that we serve, but it also extends to their families, their kids. It teaches them about healthy relationships and what to look out for in the future so that they can avoid it. So we are looking not only as working on to dealing with intimate partner violence in relationships, but we're also looking at it proactively to prevent these instances throughout the generations. And then we're available on multiple different platforms, social media, phone. Clients are able to self-refer, as I said, so they can find us through many different ventures. So I'd be happy to take any questions at this point.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
You are a very small staff. If I'm reading correctly, it's a
Yeah.
counselor, an executive director, and a part-time community facilitator. So 2.5 or so staff, correct?
Correct.
How does your staff interact or work with our FCSS department here?
So I am on the board, not the board, sorry, the group, the Family Violence Prevention Team. So I have regular contact with Leduc County that way, as well as I said, we do provide trainings. Well, we just started with vicarious trauma training for the Leduc County FCSS and just regular discussions. I know Dean and I, we meet probably annually to discuss what we're up to and how we can better serve the county.
And I ask partly because I know that we are also concerned about mental health and those sorts of issues. And certainly I'm not going to say it's different, but it is a different clientele, rural. in some ways because of sometimes it's about isolation, correct?
Correct.
And I know that our FCSS is able to reach out into those types of homes. So was just hoping that we had a good connection there, so that we're finding every way we can to help any of our residents that are requiring any support.
Yeah, and it's important to note that our services, we provide counseling in person, virtually, and by phone. And the majority of our clients still prefer virtual and phone. So yeah, we are able to meet that need.
Any other questions? Well, I'm right full of questions. I have
Sure.
One more.
Okay.
I promise I'm done. When I look at, and I didn't see, when I looked at the residents of clients and it has percentages, how many people did you serve last year? Or do you have that number?
So for just for therapy, we had 175 people that we saw. So we typically like to keep it between 6 to 10 sessions, but if clients are needing more or less, we'll accommodate that. So our therapist is booked solid every day. I try to keep it about 4 clients a day just because that's a big day for her. So we can get booked up quite quickly.
That's good to hear. And that would be a pretty busy day for someone who's doing that.
Correct. Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions? I am seeing none. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Miller, for your presentation. Thank you to your staff, your board, for the work on behalf of our residents. And I will look for someone to move this for information. Councillor Blaser, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you.
very much. Okay, we're going to move on to stars. We're not here yet. We're going to do a quick check. So let's take a quick 3-minute break. You need to fill your count. So it's 10:22. We'll come back at 10:25. Go. Perfect timing, Counselor Birdie. And we will call us back from our break and turn our presentations over to stars. So whenever you're ready.
Is this on? Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. It's so great to see all of you again. I'm very, very pleased to bring you an annual update. I'm Glenda Farndon, the Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for STARS. I've had the pleasure of working with this council and previous councils now for many, many years. I've been doing this for 17 years now. As well, I'm very pleased to have John Gauguin to be able to join us today. I hope that you find this is a treat for the council. So John, if you'd like to give them a little background.
Morning, everyone. These intros are always hard to live up to. My name is John Gauguin. I'm the Provincial Operations Director with STARS. I've also been a pilot with them for 22 years. Pleasure to be here today.
So I guess we'll get started. So first and foremost, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a little bit different logo. After 37 years, STARS is going through a little bit of a rebrand. It's a little bit different logo. Our vision has always been saving lives. We will continue that mission. But now we want, with latest in technology and new advanced equipment and all these different components, we want to take that one step further. So we're also wanting to look at providing critical care anywhere. So let's start with, of course, STARS is fueled by generosity. Last year, previously since 2010, we had a 20% government funding agreement with Alberta Health Services for 10 years. That expired in 2020. We've been year to year ever since then. Last year, Alberta Health Services in the spring made an announcement that they would be looking to move to 50% government funding in Alberta, which would align them with what we're already receiving from Saskatchewan government, as well as even higher rate from Manitoba government. And so with that, I'm pleased to announce that at the very end of last year, we did receive the top up to 50% funding. In the meantime, though, this is only for operations only. So $10 million per base for 3 bases in Alberta, $30 million a year. They topped up to $15 million. So this does not include like any components of the Emergency Link Center, as well as education and other pieces that are not directly operationally related. In the meantime, now we're in very high level discussions as well with Alberta Health Services leadership in hopes of securing a long-term service agreement again. So more to come at the next update, whether or not we can hopefully have another 10-year agreement in place at 50% funding. On the expenditure side now, you'll see that more than 80% of all expenditures are aviation and medically related. The smaller piece is the STARS Emergency Link Center, our dispatch center, as well as this is the 4th year in a row that we have remained at 12% for operation and administration costs. So we very much feel that we're doing our due diligence. CRA allows charitable entities up to 35% for administration costs. We've remained at 12% for 4 years now. John, please tell us about statistics within Leduc County.
Sure. Thanks, Glenda. So you have a very unique region here. As you can see, by and large, we average about 15 missions over the course of this 5-year period. Big uptick in 2020, 2021. Unfortunately, part of that had to do with COVID. And of course, as we're seeing right now, a lot of our missions are having to do with what we're calling the 6-7 wave, a lot of mental health issues, a lot of poverty issues, a lot of violence, a lot of different challenges that I think we all probably saw coming. We've actually increased to 33% mission volume, and many of those calls we feel are directly related to the downstream effects of COVID. A lot of rare, unique hospital situations in your region as well. There are no heliports at either Leduc or Devon. However, when patients are critically injured, it is not uncommon, as you can see by some of the statistics, for our team to be asked to come in, even though it's a short distance and a short drive to the Edmonton hospital area. Our teams have been asked to come in by ground ambulance, and then we'll help to support both local hospitals in Devon and Leduc and get those patients with critical care up to Edmonton as quickly as we possibly can. The vast majority of calls in your region, though, are actual scene calls. And I'd just like to, for any of you who are either have partners or involved in the first responders in this region, I came from the Ontario program back in 2002, and I've always been quite amazed by the partnerships and the allies that we have that get us on the ground safely. We cannot do it without them. So if you know anybody that's in first response, whoever that may be, if you just pass on our thanks on behalf of the team at STARS here in Edmonton. Next slide. So none of us live in a bubble. This is what I always tell my kids, as my daughter just went to Canmore last week. What you see here is almost 920 missions in the last 5 years that have occurred in your neighboring communities. So for those constituents that live within your county, many of these calls, and Glenda will get to it here in just a few seconds, actually occur outside of your region, but our team is asked to come in with our allies and support people when they have a major incident. And Glenda will talk about the Postal Code project and give you a pretty incredible visual of what it looks like when your constituents leave your community.
So this,
Question on this,
yes,
Parkland County doesn't have an asterisk before cited.
because they're not yet a municipal supporter.
Okay. Really, I will be talking to Mayor Gamble directly on Thursday. Thank you.
John and I
Thank
did
you.
have the pleasure
did.
of
Okay.
presenting to them, and they had declined for 2023, but they did invite us back to have a look for 2024 budgets. So we would appreciate any help and insight you
We'll
can
certainly-
offer.
Certainly have a conversation. Thank
It's quite the day we were there with the Freedom Convoy.
Yes,
Mhm.
it was very interesting. Thank you. So this is information that has been 10 years in the making. We're really excited to bring this information to you. So let's look on the left-hand side first. So this is utilizing patient postal code. No other patient information other than the postal code where they lived at the time they were flown by STARS. So this will include all municipalities that are located within your area of Leduc County. So you'll see some other municipalities listed there as well. So within Leduc County boundaries. Now, also keeping in mind that this does not include any patients that we did not have their postal code. So it's not a true account of every mission that's been flown. So now you'll see a long list of all the different resident communities where we had the postal code and then the numbers. So since 2010, 142 Leduc County and area residents have been flown by STARS. But more interestingly enough is on the right-hand side. All the red dots represent every community where these residents, these 142 residents within Leduc County boundaries had actually traveled and needed STARS. So now you will see that they have been flown. They would not all fit on the page. So we'll go to the next one here. So there's a listing of all the different locations and how many were picked up in these different locations. So these residents have been flown from 5 out of the 6 STARS bases across Western Canada in all 4 provinces, and also across 28 different Alberta municipalities. We do not all live in a bubble. We do travel. And the fact that our partnership is a testament to the fact that your residents and area have access to STARS across Western Canada. Our partnership is ensuring that everyone has access to a robust health and safety network for all of us, regardless where they may travel. I think it's very exciting to know that. And it's really solid piece of partnership for your residents to know that they have access to STARS wherever they may travel. So here is our lovely green sea map. And so this is to show you where we're at right now with municipal supporters. Many are like yourselves that have been long-term supporters of STARS operations. Everything that you see green is an annual municipal supporter like yourselves. The majority are giving at a minimum $2 per capita rate, going as high as $90 per capita. Many are now changing over like yourselves, which we thank you very much for that they are moving to a fixed rate of support as well. So that way we don't see the fluctuation of the per capita amount that we've been seeing the last couple of years. And so now they're moving to, rounding up to a higher fixed rate of support. So we're in their annual budgets each year, and that provides sustainability for STARS operations, especially when we're seeing increasing operational costs, fuel, medical supplies. We're seeing operational increase in mission volume as well, over 30%. So it's really important to have sustainable support that we know we can count on. Our partnership ensures that every emergency option is available to your residents. We're currently generating collectively across the board just over $2 million per year in operational support. As well, we have just now welcomed your neighbor, Sturgeon County. They were able to reach a logo status of over $500,000. And so they now have their logo on the helicopter as well. So the white areas that you see will be those that are still not municipal supporters. John and I are actually going to be next Monday in Lac La Biche to be meeting with their council as well. So we're very much starting to unite the entire province together. And that's a really important factor. John.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about our STARS Emergency Link Center. So earlier you heard me mention that I have a very fond recognition for first responders. The STARS Emergency Link Center is our call center located in Calgary. They basically have two components. One is the critical patient side. So anytime a 911 call comes into Alberta, they're linked into that call if it's deemed appropriate. So they cover about 100 calls a day. Obviously, you can see the numbers on the left-hand side. They're tallying up into the 36,000 to 40,000 calls per year. And they are our frontline opportunity to get information from our allies on the ground. So they'll collaborate with first response, RCMP, sheriffs, EMS, determine whether or not the patient may be critically injured enough for us to warrant a startup and hold or an actual launch for a mission. So they take care of all the logistics prior to us even really leaving the base. They'll collaborate with RCMP Fire to make sure that the landing zones are set up. We know what frequencies we're talking. And then while we're on the ground and on our way back to the hospital, they're able to give information to the transport physicians. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the technology on board the back of the aircraft, but they are our eyes and ears on the ground and basically take care of all the logistics for us. And again, a bit of an unseen hero for us. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. They actually have a transport dock now on site for a vast majority of the week. So what happens is in real time, our team can connect with the STARS transport doctor who's either an intensivist at the ICU or an emergency doc at one of the major hospitals in Alberta. They're able to pass information on to the receiving hospital. So in real time, we can collaborate and coordinate where this patient actually needs to go. It doesn't always make sense for us to go to the emerge. If we can give enough information, and Glenda will talk on ultrasound and blood and so on, it makes a lot of sense in many cases for us to divert past emerge and go directly to the OR or to the cath lab if it's a heart issue. Emergency Link Center helps coordinate both with our allies on the ground as well as the hospitals to make sure that we can be as efficient as possible.
So on the sidebar, it says 36,000 emergency.
Requests per year.
So that's 100 a day.
At least. Yeah. This past weekend, we had 497 calls in 3 days.
That's
Now we don't fly
pretty
on it.
intense. No.
It
I
is.
get that, but that's pretty intense and it does show a need.
Very much so. And then on the other side of the house is the vigilant side. So any of your industry partners, emergency response plans, injuries on sites, they have a dedicated number that calls back to the STARS Emergency Link Center. And our STARS transport doctor will talk to them as well and determine what the closest help is for them based on what those injuries are.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I think it's just important to know on the back end, though, how many different calls that STARS is still involved in some component, or the fact that the transport physicians are providing medical guidance or procedural guidance, all these things on the back end.
So I'll try and keep this short and sweet because my wife would say, blah, blah, pilot. So we recently completed our fleet campaign to purchase 10 Airbus H-145 helicopters. Glenda can speak a little bit more to that, but it's a really incredible accomplishment, both from our supporters, of which you are one of them. It has propelled the aviation and the air medical crew into the next generational aircraft. This aircraft has an autopilot. It has synthetic vision, so we're able to see even in fog and low visibilities where towers are, where mountains are, where anything we're going to hit can be. Great serviceability, incredible single engine power, so we're able to lose an engine and land very safely or hover on one engine. And really what it's allowed us to do, at least in the front, is to just elevate what has already been a world-leading safety program just to that next elevation. The training on this aircraft took place in Grand Prairie, Texas. I was away for about a month, and then we return every 6 months to practice emergencies, and then every year for our annual training for Transport Canada. From an aviation standpoint, a little bit faster, about 30 minutes more fuel. And again, just between heating systems, cooling systems, and then the Wi-Fi capability that Glenda will speak to here in a few minutes. This will be an aircraft that'll be generational and will be around for decades to come.
Mhm. And we should say that, we've been in the process of selling off our previous BK fleet. And so all of that was attributed to this particular campaign so that all 10 are operational and all 10 are paid for.
Yeah. And the older aircraft, the AW139, we believe next week we'll sell the very last one to an organization out of Florida.
Good news.
So of course, we have the latest in technology with the new helicopters, but it's also important about the back end of the helicopter. This new intensive care unit environment in the new helicopters is just absolutely amazing. As you can see, it's very much an airborne intensive care unit as well. So I thought that we bring you a little bit of insight into just some of the pieces of the specialized equipment, which is really, really important in an area like Leduc County, where the majority of everything is a scene call. So it's really important that we're bringing that type of an environment. So we'll start with the handheld iStat lab. You can see it's the size of a cell phone, but more importantly, with just a couple of drops of blood in less than 2 minutes while we're airborne in the air, it will provide hemoglobin, blood gases, even electrolytes. So these are all important factors, test results that are necessary, especially when you're running multiple pain management drugs for a trauma patient. The Hamilton T1 ventilator. Now it's fully featured, just like what you would find in the intensive care units in the hospital, but it is made especially for transport systems. And better yet, it accommodates all sizes of patients, adult, pediatric, even neonatal. So, we never know till the call comes in what we're actually going to be dealing with. This is a vital piece of equipment. We always carry 2 units of universal blood. STARS is a leader in innovation, and we're very proud of that fact. We were the very first helicopter EMS program in North America to bring this life-saving measure on board, and it has been the difference between life and death for thousands of patients. The video laryngoscope, now you can see that it is an advancement in intubation, was widely used during the COVID years as well, because all those patients had to be intubated. Our crews can actually view the trachea right on the video screen. This is especially important when they are managing difficult airways. So for such patients as trauma patient, possibly a burn victim, maybe someone that's been crushed on impact, you can imagine that it's really vital that we can effectively and immediately intubate that patient that can no longer breathe for themselves.
And you're doing it while you're flying.
Yes.
Yep. I actually saw a paramedic in a river. An individual was trapped in a car in a river about 2.5 months ago at night. And they intubated them until emergency services could excavate them out of the vehicle. And they were nearly upside down. The car was on its side. Yeah, it's an incredible tool.
So the Easy IO drill. Now this has been around for quite a few years, and we've used this a lot, but as well, they continue to perfect it. It's only used in time-sensitive, life-threatening situations when we must have immediate IV access. So this little handheld drill allows us to drill into a shoulder bone or a thigh bone and start an immediate IV. I know that sounds squeamish, but at the same time, you're dealing with a trauma patient. They're in massive pain. They don't know. They just need stabilization and pain management now. And so this is a very effective tool, and you'd actually be quite surprised how many times we have to use it. The handheld ultrasound. Again, now this provides rapid test results for the diagnosis of collapsed lungs, any kind of trauma-related internal bleeding, heart abnormalities, even fetal compromise in ill or injured pregnant mothers. So now with this new capability of the handheld ultrasound and the way that the new helicopters are equipped with integrated Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and satellite connectivity, we can actually have these test results and also transmit them directly in real time while we're en route to the hospital to the receiving doctors at the receiving hospital so they can expedite their treatment plan. They already know what's happening with the patient. They know what they're going to be dealing with so that that patient can go directly into trauma surgery, cardiac cath lab, whatever the case may be that it warrants for that patient. Really amazing advancements in technology. We always carry a plethora of pain management drugs as well, including the thrombolytics for a query stroke patient. We do have agreements with all of the hospitals across Western Canada that are on the stroke protocol, so that our transport physicians who are in the emergency link center can contact that hospital that we are en route with a query stroke, so that that patient can go directly into the mandatory CAT scanner in order to determine what type of stroke it is and whether or not it warrants giving the thrombolytic drugs. About 25% of our calls of transport physician will also attend with our crew. This is mainly for physician-to-physician consultation with rural doctors at rural hospitals. So we carry the physician's kit as well with the central venous catheterization lines, as well as even a temporary pacemaker for insertion in order to stabilize the heart patient while en route to cardiac cath lab. So this is just a small example of some of the really highly specialized equipment that really beneficial in areas like yours where it's majority all scene call. And of course, you have the latest in technology, you have the greatest in the state of art equipment, but it also is very important that you have the highest level of critical care expertise in your crew. So we're very proud of the fact that our crew is bringing the highest level of critical care to Albertans. There is this Air Medical Transport Conference Simulation Competition each year. This is worldwide. And STARS has always, we participated for the last 20 years. We always hold our own internal competition to allow our team members to compete against each other for one team of two having the honor to represent STARS internationally each year at this simulation competition. It's a very rigorous competition. They basically throw the book at them. They're having to manage the worst cases of critical patients and multiple patients all at the same time for only a team of two. It's quite amazing. In the 20 years that STARS has participated in this competition, STARS has placed worldwide in the top 3 every year for 20 years. Last year, our team from Saskatoon won the competition first place, and this marks the 7th time in those 20 years that STARS has also taken first place. We very much feel we are bringing the highest level of critical care to Albertans, and we can't do that without partners like you. So in closing, I want to say thank you very much for your leadership. Thank you for your ongoing dedication to STARS since 1992. Thank you for your consistent support. Last year, I'd asked you for an increase, and we very much appreciate everything that you're doing, that you're there standing by our side each year. You've moved to fixed rate of support on a standing motion, meaning that, you know, we are a line item in your budget each year. We know that we can count on Leduc County. A life is saved literally every day, but partnership is what makes it possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you once again for an outstanding presentation. I certainly appreciate the statistics you were able to pull together. That helps to paint a really strong picture for us and allows us to speak to residents when they say, why do you support STARS? To be able to pull some of that out and talk about how widespread the impact is, right? And that's, we're talking about individuals that are not families that are impacted and how that kind of flows out from there. So with that, I'm going to ask if there are any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Verdi.
Very happy that we're supporting such an important cause. Thank you so much. Quick question. So what triggers STARS ambulance versus your typical hospital ambulance? What is the criteria?
It's a great question. It's all based on an algorithm and I would argue quite a bit of question asking. So within the system that 911 uses, there's an algorithm. And as they go through the card system and determine how critical the patient is injured, it will flag on the computer that this could be warranted as a STARS call. At that point in time, the dispatcher who's taking the information from the 911 system will contact our emergency link center and we'll start to spool up and start the process. There is another way, and that is if there's a bystander on scene or a first responder on scene that is able to share information with our STARS emergency link center, it may warrant what we call an auto launch. That's generally a first response, RCMP, sheriff, first aid, EMS. However, our STARS transport doctor will in fact ask a bystander more information. And now with the advent of a secure program that we're calling Good Sam, we're actually able to FaceTime them in real time. They turn their camera around and we just start to get a video in real time and ask questions. So we can start to just initiate ourselves into the system. That's also working in the rural hospitals as well. So where you have doctor to doctor and STARS team collaboration in a team of 3 talking about the patient as they get information. But the short answer is if it's deemed within the algorithm, plus a couple extra questions, our crew will prepare to launch. And then our STARS Emergency Link Center determines which of the 6 bases is most appropriate for us to move into support.
Great question. Go ahead. If you have a secondary one, go ahead, Councillor Verdi.
The uptick in cameras and Wetaskiwin, what is the kind of rationale behind that or the reasons, I guess?
I think a lot of it is good communication. I think that the government and our allies are understanding, as Glenda attested to, that there are certain cases where we bring a different level of care. And again, it's because of the support like communities like yours that allow us to do the training to elevate us into that kind of platinum level critical care. As to the why in the communities, again, we're in constant contact with these hospitals and the residents and, the groups. I would argue that there are certain communities within our region that are having larger challenges economically. And I guess what I could say is that that region is having its own struggles. And we're honored to be there to help. We wish that we didn't, but they're not alone. It's something we're seeing across all 4 provinces, really, into British Columbia. There is just a wave of mental illness and of sadness that's affecting the healthcare system as a whole.
Councillor Smith.
In your presentation, you were talking about support and levels of support and dollar numbers. Could you just repeat that? I think you're talking about a minimum of $2 per resident, maybe other
on the
support areas. Can
municipal
you just give me
side.
those figures back one more time? Thank you.
Sure. The majority of, we're working with, let's just go back here for a second. The majority, we've just now added 5 new rural municipalities as well as 5 urban. So now I'm starting to build regional partnerships, which means that I'm going to the towns and villages that lie within a county that is already a supporter, and they are becoming a supporter as well. So we are having that, like Beaver County, for example, is one community away from being one of the very first regional partners, meaning that every town and village within their boundaries is also a supporter. So it's a collective, united effort. We have several throughout the northern region that it's almost, I think we're maybe 3 away from the entire northern region being all regional supporters. So it's a very solid effort there. Wheatland County has attained that they have complete support. So now we're having that opportunity to reach out to these other urban municipalities and ask for their help. So majority are giving at a minimum $2 per capita rate. And then we have some municipal leaders that you'll see there that are also on the helicopter as well that are giving significantly higher in the $40, $50, and up to $90 per capita rate. We are a line item in their annual budget. They recognize STARS as a part of their emergency protective services. So now they've taken a block amount of several of them are in the $200,000 per year and higher, that they recognize us as one of their lifelines for their residents. So we are part of their emergency protective services budget, which is also really nice in the fact that then the fire chief usually comes to give his overview, give his report to council. We come together once a year as a united effort. He can speak to a lot of the missions that we've done in their area. It's, and we are part of his budget. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. And certainly for me, that the picture of them working or in there with the little handheld, you see how crowded it is. You see how important space and all of that is. And so it's a really triggered to me about how absolutely well-trained and coordinated your staff and the helicopters are, because that was a pretty amazing one. So thank you for your presentation. Looking for someone to move for information. Councillor Scobie, thank you very much. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you again. And thank you on behalf of all of us for your guys' work in keeping our residents safe.
And thank you for your time and your partnership. So I did bring you a calendar.
Oh,
again.
yay. Okay.
We'll have new calendars coming out, so you'll get another one coming.
Okay.
As well as just wanted to point out, this is also, you can view this on our website, stars.ca. It's our latest version of the Horizons newsletter.
Okay.
I'd like to draw your attention to the back. It's a pretty significant story in the fact that after 38 years, STARS flew its record mission. And they say that if you were to fly the total distance of this mission in a straight line, it would be like flying from Calgary to Los Angeles.
Wow.
A very incredible mission. The patient has come back. We were the only option. He did need the blood. He did need the intensive care unit environment. And it just goes back to show that, partnership all across the board. You never know when you might need STARS.
Absolutely. Nobody plans to be in that situation.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah. I always makes you sad. Yeah. And I know now we have Enbridge.
Yes, Enbridge is prepared to introduce themselves and for the reason for their meeting.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Mr. White. That was pretty quick. And looking forward to a more in-depth look at the carbon capture. I know for some of us who were out at Genesee at the I think it was a lunch this year, we had a little bit of a conversation. So looking forward to it. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you. That was my first comment I was going to make, that we met some of you at the Capital Powers luncheon, and then followed that we had a public open house to talk a little bit about the carbon capture project happening out in Genesee generation plant. So I'll just introduce myself. I am Nicole Baker, and I am the Community and Indigenous Engagement Senior Advisor with Enbridge. And my colleagues here today.
Tyler Smaskowicz, Supervisor of the Lands Group for Canadian Projects.
Environment lead for the project.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the sole purpose of today's presentation is really information sharing. We just wanted to get out very early on in the stage of the project. We're still very much exploratory, evaluating. Nothing's been approved yet, but we are trying to develop this project within the Leduc County area and in partnership with Capital Power and other emitters. So we wanted to come out and just present to your council and then give the opportunity to ask some questions to us. So I'll run through the slides really quickly. Some of it might be information you've already seen if you were at the luncheon, and some hopefully will be a little bit newer, just more details into the project. So next slide. So what is a carbon hub? The Alberta government sees value in progressing efforts to reduce our emissions, not only as a province, but also the Canadian government has put that mandate in to get to that goal of net zero by 2050. So with that, large scale emitters such as Capital Power are looking at ways to reduce their emissions through energy efficiency, improving, upgrading their systems, all of that stuff. But another key part of that would be carbon capture. So with that technology, there is a carbon capture project that's been in operation in Alberta for the past few years with the Shell Quest. But with that model, that project had proven that the technology works. And so the Alberta government wants to actually progress more of these technologies, deploy these systems within primarily the Edmonton industrial area around Fort Saskatchewan, Jared Park, or the donut that we call around Edmonton, but also in other parts of the province. So how they are doing it to coordinate so that not every single industry out there is capturing and storing their own carbon emissions in kind of a random sense, they've developed this model to use hubs. So there was a certain amount of proposals coming out from different industry partners who looked at different hub spaces. So that industry is all being a little bit more coordinated and aligned, and that there's certain areas that'll be dedicated for carbon storage underground. And then we're not all kind of overlapping. So Enbridge has been successful in gaining the evaluation or exploratory rights to look at the area in the Wabamun. We called it the Wabamun Hub because that's the Wabamun area, which falls within Leduc and a few other counties, Parkland and others, Sturgeon County as well. So it's that west side of the city of Edmonton, and that's the whole area. We won't be storing carbon in every single piece of that. Right now, we've been awarded those evaluation rights to explore through the subsurface. So this just kind of shows how, the intent of the hub is that Enbridge will get those CO2 emissions from our commercial partners and our industry emitters. Enbridge will then take it from the site of, in this case, the Capital Power Genesee plant, transport it through pipeline, and then permanently store it underground. And then there will also be more evaluation and monitoring of that CO2 once it is underground. So that's just the general concept of the hub. And next slide. So you already know Capital Power is one of the partners that is working with us to create this project. They are managing the capture part of it at their Genesee power plant, and they are looking at developing and building a capture facility, and then we would transport it. We are also working with another large-scale industry partner, Heidelberg Materials, located in the city of Edmonton. And that would be, we're looking at kind of two projects that are aligned together, but they're actually operating a bit separately. So Capital Power, with their capture, they will have their own dedicated pipelines and storage sites. And then Heidelberg, being in a different location, will have its own capture and transportation pipelines and storage sites as well. So we also have Indigenous partners involved in this project. In order to get that space, we wanted to make sure that we were being inclusive of not only municipal stakeholders, but also Indigenous communities in the region. So Enbridge has a potential to have an equity ownership partnership with five Indigenous communities, 4 First Nations, and 1 Métis community, the Lac Saint Anne. All 5 of these Indigenous communities have signed on with a letter of intent and would like to become ownership equity stakeholders in the project. So they have an opportunity to own up to 50% of these pipelines and CO2 storage sites, which is really part of Enbridge's goal to contribute to economic reconciliation. And also for the Indigenous communities, it's really kind of aligned with how they want to be positive contributors to the environment. And they're kind of the traditional stewards of the land, and they want to make sure that if we are going to be doing this carbon capture and storage in the traditional territories that their people have lived for thousands of years, they want to make sure that it is doing it correctly, it is honoring and respecting Mother Earth, and it is also being culturally appropriate and inclusive of their communities. So the Wabamun Hub area, that's what I was kind of speaking to at the first slide, was this is the map of the area where the government of Alberta has awarded us space to evaluate. The circles, the kind of blue circles, are the key areas that we're looking at currently. Those are the areas where likely we think we will have pipelines and potential CO2 storage sites. So together, combined with Capital Power in Heidelberg, we hope that these systems, we plan that these systems can actually store 4 million tons of CO2 per year for the lifespan of potentially 25 to 30 years per well site or more. So we could have more well sites than just one. So it's not just one pipeline and one site drilling down. There could be multiple wells that are storing this. And each one will also have monitoring wells with it, so that that CO2, once it goes down underground, it'll be monitored for the location that it is moving underground, how it's behaving, the pressure that it is at, and then all of that gets submitted to the government through our regulatory process, which my team members here can speak more fluently and eloquently on that part of it. At this point, do you want questions or we'll save them to the end?
What do you guys want to do? Just save till the end?
Yeah,
Some of
so
them might get answered.
yeah, throughout the presentation. Okay, so the CO2 storage, I keep saying storage sites. This shows what I mean when I say the storage site. So up there in this image, we have where the CO2 would be captured. That white line on the surface map image is the pipeline.
Are you able to put this in presentation mode?
I don't think so because it's a PDF. Yeah, sorry. And then it would be stored through an injection well. And we would be storing it anywhere from 200 to 2,000 to 3,000 meters underground. So very, very deep underground, far below any kind of water tables or water systems or aquifers. And we are looking for it's like a porous sandstone formation underground that is able to take large pressurized gas. But in this case, the CO2 starts as a gas and then it is compressed. So it'll actually behave as a liquid. So is in a supercritical state, which behaves like a CO2 liquid. Anything to add on that?
That's right. The other important item here that we want to show is the cap rock. So you can see on the right hand on the bottom, the cap rock acts as a seal. So once that CO2 is injected into that pore space, we're looking for really good cap rock to seal that in place so that that CO2 remains in that pore space that we've injected it into.
Yeah. So when you think of cap rock, think of like granite, like really, really impermeable, non-porous stone systems that are actually naturally occurring over top of these more porous systems underground. So that would prevent the CO2 from going up into other layers. And we also have predictive modeling in place that would show at how much CO2 we're injecting and at what rates and pressures that will actually we want to predict how the CO2 would behave. And then through our evaluation systems and monitoring systems, we would have to show that that prediction is actually the CO2 is behaving as predicted. And and they're not oil and gas reservoirs. So some people have asked, in other CO2 applications such as enhanced oil recovery, CO2 is used to produce more oil. That is not this. It's actually much deeper than oil and gas systems are usually drilled around 1,000 to 2,000 meters, and we're going much deeper than that, and also ensuring that we're avoiding any abandoned well caverns or anything like that. So the safety of CO2 storage, as I mentioned before, there is another project that is currently actively doing this over in the north of Fort Saskatchewan, which is the Shell Quest project. They've already permanently stored over 6 million tons of CO2 since 2015. And that's where Quest, when they built that project, they did get a lot of public funding and support for that from both the federal and provincial government. And with that, they were they were required and wanting to share a lot of that information and technology to help show that CO2 storage can be done safely, and that it is a viable technology that has helped improve and reduce their emissions in their own systems, and that other emitters could do it as well. So Quest is injecting into the same target formations as the Wabamun hub. That's another key point, that Shell Quest project is very similar to the formations that the hub would be injecting CO2 into as well. There's also in Saskatchewan, the Aquastore project is injecting CO2 at the same depths that we're targeting. And they do it primarily with a partnership with the Sask Power Company. And we're working very closely with their operators and their technologists to make sure that we're sharing information openly between them and learning from them. We've asked them if there was any leaks within their systems at any point. They've said no. We've asked about, all the learning that they took for them to not only build it, but continue to operate and maintain. And then also in Illinois, there's another project that's injecting into the deep saline reservoirs, and they've been storing over 1 million tons of CO2 since 2011 to 2014. So CO2 has been done for many, many years, CO2 storage and capture. Also, there's projects in Norway that have been doing it since the 90s. And they actually do it underground. So they will take CO2 from the emitters and they'll actually pipe it down into their ocean systems and then inject it deep into the ocean floor. And that just, that was due to, I think, the subsurface of where that rock formation was naturally occurring. It made sense for them to go out to that ocean system and inject it down there. So the CO2 transportation, as I had mentioned, the CO2 would be transported through pipelines. Enbridge, that's where our expertise really comes in. Our main line of business has been transporting different energy systems for many, many years across many different communities all around North America. So Enbridge, we feel we are a world leader in this pipeline safety. We employ the best technology, the most advanced systems, from monitoring to also emergency management. We have shutoff valves, all kinds of systems to help improve and ensure that these CO2 pipelines would be safely operated.
So can I ask a question? So will the pipelines be operated through a control room center like the oil pipelines are?
Yes.
Is it the same one or would it be something different? Like the same people monitoring oil and CO2?
It would go through our control center. So there's different individuals working on different
Okay, so they're
different facilities and different pipelines. So I'm not sure of their staffing. So if they're cross-trained or whatever, but someone who's monitoring, let's say our line 3 would be monitoring that pipeline.
Okay.
So then these are new facilities for us. So we haven't built them. They're not existing. So we would have to hire new staff to operate. as
and
well.
do the training about what are the pressure changes or whatever
Yeah.
that would necessitate a shut off or whatever that is, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be specific to CO2.
Yeah.
We also operate liquid pipelines and gas systems, right? Within Enbridge. So this is a new line of product going through our pipes. So it would be specific to CO2.
So would the pipe be different than what you're currently using?
Yes.
Would have
Yeah.
different types of corrosion
Exactly.
inhibitors and those types of things.
Yeah, so this would be brand new steel pipes being put in, purpose built to consume, like to be able to hold these higher pressures than some of our other systems. And the diameter of it is about 6-inch diameter pipe, so a lot smaller than our liquids. Some of our liquid pipelines are quite larger.
Yeah, and it may be a little bit bigger diameter, but we're still designing all that. It's going to depend on the distance and the pressures, which we're still working on. But we're not taking an existing pipeline and retrofitting.
Reusing it. Okay,
Exactly. It's brand new. This will be a new pipeline. built.
thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Verdi.
Yeah, thank you. Just trying to summarize so you'll capture the carbon and inject it into the ground, into a permeable layer, and there it'll be stored. And then you will pump it back up.
No, so yeah, so actually it'll be permanently stored forever that we won't actually need to bring it back up. We want those emissions to actually just stay underground. And after many, many years, it would just either remineralize or just kind of stay safely in that system, that formation. So we wouldn't be using that CO2 for any other purposes.
And just to clarify, we're not capturing it. Capital Power and Heidelberg will be capturing it from their emissions, and then we will transport it and inject it.
So what is, oh, sorry. Yeah.
Don't, go ahead.
So
please.
so what is once it's stored down there and we wait for years, then what is the purpose? Like overall, what are we going to do with that formation?
We are gonna leave it. But like it's all for to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions so that we be positive contributors to that climate action.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Just leaving
Yes.
it down there and
Yeah, because Capital
taking it out.
Power and
I see.
Heidelberg are CO2 emitters, so they want to reduce and remove the CO2 emissions. So they'll be capturing it and then we transport it and inject it. And the CO2 comes from the ground, from the carbon cycle, right? So we're just putting it back there permanently.
So yeah, when like Capital Power and Heidelberg, they consume a lot of natural gas within their production facilities. And with that, the byproduct of running their systems is that CO2, which already came when we took the natural gas out of the ground, that carbon came with it. So the whole system is to try to put it back, and that both Capital Power and Heidelberg want to be kind of these neutral systems that continue to operate while being sustainable and not contributing to the greenhouse gases.
And the 6-inch pipe goes from where to where?
So from Capital Power's facility, we haven't actually had the routing yet or anything, and that'll come up. But it would around their area, like we want to stay as close to Capital Power because they are kind of lucky in a way that these rock formations don't, the ones that we were been talking about, these porous systems don't actually exist everywhere in the world. There's only certain parts of the world that have these formations in order to store CO2. So they are lucky that they are actually right on top of some of the best CO2 storage system in the world.
So we're still working on our routing and our location for injecting into those wells. So we don't have those locations finalized yet, but we're working towards that. So we'll be transporting it from Capital Power to the injection wells.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But it just has to stay within that Wabamun hub area that we had showed on the previous slide.
Councillor Balazer?
Yeah, I was just wondering how many PSI pressure are you pumping this down at? And then how many years projection have you got that you can pump this down before you have to move on to somewhere else? Any ideas?
Yeah, with the pressure that some of the modeling and some of the CO2 experts that we've been working with and looking at those other sites, it is being pumped at that 2200 PSI through the pipeline, and then it'll be injecting, I'm not sure at that rate, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
And
it's not being repressurized.
No, at the system. So once it's already pressurized at the Capital Power site, then that pressure will stay throughout the pipeline and then down underground. And based on other carbon capture projects, none of them have actually reached their capacity or lifespan yet in Canada. So, but we are projecting that these wells could continue pumping 3 to 4 million tons per year for up to 25 years. So it's a very large system underground. And has a lot of capacity to hold a lot of pressurized CO2.
And we're still finalizing the modeling on that, but
Early signs show us that the data looks very good for those systems. So we've already drilled an evaluation well. We haven't actually injected any CO2 at this point. We drilled an evaluation well to take core samples and do some pressure testing close to the Capital Power well site.
Yeah, and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, that's the one down by the gun range?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'm just wondering what the risk is to the Wabamun area if natural gas is failed or phased out in the production of electricity by 2035, which could be legislation coming up this year. According to the Alberta government, does that put this project at risk in the Wabamun area? Of course, the cement plant will always emit. Only in Alberta, we regulate cement plants, not in anywhere else in Canada. But I'm just wondering, this is a really great idea. But is it, with announcements coming up over the next year, at risk, or something that you've factored into your planning?
I don't think I can answer that as Enbridge.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is take that away to Capital Power, our project partner, because they're capturing it from their emissions and it's all based on their projections. And then we're transporting it, injecting for Capital Power. So we can definitely take that away and get back to you on that.
Yeah, and they just transitioned their systems off of coal onto natural gas. And I think this is not coming from anywhere other than myself, is that I think that in order for them to continue with the natural gas, they want to show that they can use it with doing this capture and storage as well. So if I think a lot of industries are hoping that if we can continue to use these natural gas systems in partnership with the capture and storage, that governments would be willing to continue that operations as is. But
Just to follow up, because it's unrealistic to green the energy or the electricity by 2035. We'll be freezing and burning a lot of wood in our stoves and putting carbon into it that way. So again, it's going to be a lot of moving parts. I like the idea that you're actually putting something in place to keep going with the natural gas in Alberta. That's probably pretty important. Oil and gas still to continue on. So again, this is something to hedge the fight ahead that's coming to green, impossibly green up a system in less than 12 years. Thanks for that information. We'll look for all the moving parts.
yeah, that's definitely the intent, is that capture, like carbon capture and storage, seems to be the fastest way to bring a lot of emissions down quickly, while we are all trying to do this green energy transition at the same time. Next slide.
I don't think we talked too much.
Oh,
We finished that one. Sorry. I thought we still. Okay, sorry.
so I had mentioned a bit on measurement monitoring. I mentioned monitoring well, but just to go a little more details into what that means is anybody who will be doing this carbon storage underground has to have a really robust and informative measurement monitoring verification plan that needs to be submitted to the AER in order to gain that approval to inject CO2. So I might just hand the slide off to Carrie because she can speak very well on what is involved with this measurement monitoring verification.
And it is referred to as the MMV plan, just because it is quite a mouthful to say measurement, monitoring and verification plan. But basically what it is, we're looking at the subsurface pore space and identifying how that pore space might be in a three-dimensional model. So if it's conical or if it's more like an egg, we'll know that 3D spatial perspective of that pore space. And then we would design a site-specific MMV plan to ensure that the CO2 does remain in the ground. So there's different components to the MMV plan. And one is that really deep subsurface where we are storing in that pore space, and that's our geosphere. And then we've got our hydrosphere, which is more our shallow subsurface, so where we've got our groundwater and getting closer to that surface. And then we've got our biosphere, which is the surface, so the vegetation and the wildlife. And then we've got our atmosphere. So we'll be measuring all of those as we go and operate the project. We'll be designing the MMV plan based on the site-specific conditions. And like I said, we start with that subsurface, that geohazard, or sorry, the geosphere, and then we work our way up to the atmosphere and design that monitoring and verification. And part of that monitoring is also, continually improving and taking feedback from that monitoring if we need to adjust different areas of monitoring, or we're monitoring an area that really we're not getting any data, which is what Quest found. They didn't really have a robust site-specific monitoring plan. And what they're finding is years later, they're scaling back that MMV plan. So we're going to be starting with that site-specific MMV plan for each of those injection wells. And with that is our emergency response plan. So being an oil and gas facility operator, we do have emergency response plans for our facilities, and we'll be designing new emergency response plans for our CO2 facilities as well.
And part of that verification piece is like verifying that the CO2 is behaving as predicted, so that it matches up with our models and backed up with the data and the monitoring that we've been doing. So we'll also be collecting CO2 rates in the area, from the CO2 in the air, the CO2 in the water systems, and any CO2 levels in the soil. So it'll constantly be seen if that environment around the area is changing at all, or are having any kind of impacts from
Yeah,
the
we'll be
project.
collecting baseline data at least a year prior to injection, and then comparing our monitoring data to that baseline.
What role does the municipality of Leduc County have in any of these approvals or going forward?
A question for Tyler.
Well, so basically any of the work that we're doing, like we would be submitting requests for approvals, like for crossings or approaches, anything along those lines. Once we have a more formalized plan laid out with respect to the pipeline system and any future well sites, it's something that we could either meet with somebody in the approval process here with the county and just give them basically like an updated plan, so that as they start seeing these requests come in, it's not coming as a surprise. But yeah, and then like we mentioned here with the emergency response plans, I'm sure as this process gets laid out, chances are there'd be a lot more involvement with some of the first responders within the community as well, to provide that knowledge of how to respond.
So, but overall approval of the project occurs with the Alberta government, not with the county as the municipality.
Yeah, the AER is who we seek our approval for, the licensing. Any of the municipal approvals, obviously, yeah, like crossings,
Road
anything to do with, yeah, exactly, anything with the roads. And you've seen some of that with the initial evaluation well.
So when would you say we're going to get started on this project?
Next slide.
In a way that, okay, perfect. Next slide.
Yeah, so this is just a very high level kind of look at the timelines. Obviously still in development, as we keep saying, but right now of where we're at today, like in 2023, these are the activities that we have planned. Drilling that evaluation well, which we completed in April. And you can kind of go drive by the site if you'd like to go see it. It's just a wellhead in the middle of a field. It's not very exciting, but we're getting lots of exciting data from underneath and from that well. Later on this year, we're thinking probably in Q4 or in the fall of 2023, we are planning on developing a 3D seismic program to get more subsurface data and mapping of the geological formations underneath. So with that, likely our contractor is doing majority of that work. We're currently in discussions with a contractor who can do the 3D seismic. So that would be kind of going through the area, running some 3D seismic lines and doing some field work to get that geological data. Then going into 2024 and 2025 is the early development pieces. And this is where we really start getting into the planning of the pipeline routes. From the 3D seismic data, we are confident and hopeful that we will have a lot of really good information to be able to start picking out potential CO2 locations for storage. Yeah, the injection wells, the CO2 storage sites. And then we would build the routing based on where those locations would be. And then that's when Tyler would come back out and do some discussions with landowners and counties, maybe your lands department, and talk about those
We
specific
don't have a
areas.
lands department. I just want to be clear on that.
Or we'll just
Not that big.
we'll keep chatting with Brad. And then in 2026 is when we hope, once we get all those plans in place, we get approval from the AAR and the GOA to actually go forward and inject CO2, then we would be building the pipelines and wells.
Thank you.
So
Very well timed.
yes,
I didn't plan it that way.
you just have very good foresight. So again, to kind of summarize of everything that we've tried to kind of share today is on the right side is what we do know today. Everything we've kind of ran through is like, we've got the approval to evaluate the Wabamun hub area. We do know the CO2 emissions levels currently being emitted from Capital Power in Heidelberg and what that would take to transport and store it. We know how much CO2 we want to target to capture and store. And then the regulatory requirements from CO2 pipelines. Carrie and our project team is meeting with the AAR regularly as they continue to update their policies and their regulations to safely regulate all of these hubs, these carbon hubs. The MMV plans we have are currently being developed and added to. And then we do have target in service dates for these, particularly with Capital Power in Heidelberg we're hoping for 2027. If all goes well. The other things that are yet to be determined as of today is that we are still, like I mentioned, trying to find the locations of where this permanent CO2 storage would make the most sense and have the best capacity to store CO2. And then the routing of the pipelines and then the approval for the permanent storage. So.
Any other questions? I'm seeing none. So thank you very much. Actually, it was great to meet you guys at the luncheon, but to bring this forward in a timely fashion so that we're aware of it and we know what's happening. And please keep us informed as decisions are made and things work through, because that's really important for council to be able to be part of that with you guys.
Exactly. And then we hope to actually have some open houses down the road and things like that. So we'll keep you informed of any of those activities.
Thank you.
And next time we won't follow such an amazing presentation from STARS.
It's been a great day of amazing presentations. So no, you were very interesting, and I certainly would have had like a gazillion more questions if we hadn't already talked. So I tempered myself. Thank you. Someone move for information? Councillor Verdi, thank you very much. All in favor? That's unanimous. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Right. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. The team is very pleased to bring towards committee today with 3 presentations this morning. I will be presenting the Economic Development Update. Economic Development Officer Maureen Easton will be presenting the Business Retention Program. And finally, newly acquired Economic Development Officer Trevor Anderson, to my immediate right, will speak on the BEC Year 1 in place of our Economic Development Coordinator, Brianna Kumpala-Young, who is finalizing her master's program this week.
Good for her.
We're very proud of her, Young. It is administration's recommendation that the Governance Priorities Committee receive the Economic Development Update Report as information. The report is on economic development activities from April to May. There is a misspell on the report. The background, our activities align with council strategic vision, the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan, and the recently newly approved Leduc County investment strategy. In the last few weeks, economic development welcomed Trevor Anderson, again to my right, our new economic development officer for investment attraction for Leduc County. Trevor has direct experience with industrial and rural agriculture business and Indigenous economic development. We're very pleased to have him. Previous economic development questions from council. So in previous meetings, council and committees, council had some questions to administration. One of those we're responding to the worker shortages within the region. The economic development officers in the intermunicipal area are collaborating together on a conference / summit job fair, basically working on connections in education and supporting our regional employers. And we expect this target for this event to happen before year's end. The regional developer team just mentioned is also contacting the remaining apprenticeship programs in the region and potential partnerships. And the team is comprised of Leduc County and then the municipalities within our immediate region. The BEC, also known as the Leduc County Business and Entrepreneur Center, Mother Sourdough division of Chartier. Bakery has been operating out of the center since early May and has created 6 new jobs. The bakery is focused on providing their flagship restaurant in the region with baked goods. The center, other spaces are still under consideration with other businesses. Last week, the center hosted the with Leduc County and the Chamber of Commerce, hosted the Food Truck Festival, showcasing several of the regional food providers and showcasing the BEC to visitors. We had heard that pretty much all of the trucks pretty well had sellouts, and that we expect 2 more of these events occurring in July 6th and August 3rd. And special props to communications and parks for coming to our immediate rescue with cutting grass and providing some updates through LinkedIn and other social media events. And even though we had rain that day, was considered by all the food trucks and those that attended us very successful. So
Any day we get rain is a great day.
I understand that being in this municipality now, that's very important. Also on May the 4th, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and Leduc Region Chambers of Commerce held a co-held panel event with inclusive growth and dialogue with Indigenous businesses and entrepreneurs. Other events have included monthly peer-to-peer meetups, collaborative economic development financial modeling sessions, and our regular county business meetings with local and international visitors looking at our municipality, and also with development facilitation. From the measurement program, usually there is a little graph that is in your program every month. This last few months, we are working on reconfiguring our Salesforce program. All the information that in there is not lost, but we are having 2 new staff that we are training. We haven't lost our contacts or who we've engaged with, but we're just ensuring from a workflow perspective that we are capturing the information that is expected by council at the end of the day. From also a comment and request from committee earlier, we are producing the Leduc County's economic specific website statistics. From the month of May, we had 342 visitors. In the top 5 pages were the homepage, the food truck rally, and the Business Entrepreneur Center as the top 3. I should also mention that from a regional perspective, we are seeing just over 5% vacancy in the Nisku and Leduc County area from non-residential. A lot of this slight rise up is based on the fact of York and Remington's significant warehouses that they are just bringing online right now that are several 100,000 square feet each. And but right now it looks like there's 0% out there for anything that is between the 10 and 20,000 range. So the Leduc County's Business Retention Expansion Visitor Program, the team has attended some business openings in the last couple of months, including Sunnybrook Welding, Bobella Winery, and continues its outreach programs. The peer-to-peer mentorship program holds monthly meetings with administration at the BEC, where the business owners come together for mentorship and business support. And Maureen will be providing some more details on that program in the next presentation. A new portion of this monthly update is the Leduc County's investment strategy that was recently approved. So those priority actions do have expected timelines within the next 3 years from 2023 to 2025. And this portion will focus on the upcoming deliverables and the status of those deliverables. Administration is on target for the most immediate strategy to ensure that the economic development activities align with Leduc County's planning and development plans. Administration also engages very much with Edmonton Global, the EMRB, Alberta Innovates, Invest Alberta, Prairies Can, and also we deal internally with planning and development, our engineering program, and also working with intergovernmental team to ensure that our activities align and our advocacy efforts are all singing from the same song sheet. Leduc County's regional engagement, the Collaborative Economic Development Regional Workshop Group has previewed the financial model and tool for potential municipal investment collaboration. This financial instrument, if you think of it more almost like as a mortgage calculator, the intention is so that that municipalities can have at least a thumbnail look on any sort of investments and whoever they are partnering with, and just to give them a sense of, is it worth it for the end of the day? The CAO steering committee will be meeting, I believe, later this week. We'll be looking at this tool as well. The economic development team had the opportunity to speak at the Nisku Real Estate Forum with other brokers and promoting Leduc County's value proposition, showcasing the future work and activities. The team has had a presence at the Leduc Trade and County Fair in May with a county booth informing businesses about the PEC, meeting with regional businesses and providing county job opportunities. The team also participated and worked at the Edmonton Global Hydrogen booth for the Edmonton Hydrogen Conference in last April. And other events were attended to was the Yeg Airport Cargo Tour, where executives from the municipalities and economic development were toured the cargo area of the airport, Alberta Aviation Conference, and Leduc County Land Development meeting with regional builders, where us, planning, development, and engineering are meeting with some of our developers in the area to get a sense of what's coming down the pipe, where they're seeing the investments that we need to make and where we should be moving forward to. And the team continues to be part of the development reviews, providing economic development perspective. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Looks like you guys have been quite busy. Any questions about this report? There are a couple of subsequent reports that might have some of the answers that you might have asked for this one. But I am seeing no hands, so I will ask for someone to move it as information. Councillor Balazar will. Comments, questions, or debate? None. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. On to Ms. Easton with the Business Retention and Expansion Program report.
Good morning. So as per the Planning and Development 2023 operational plan, I'm here to present an overview, an update on the business retention and expansion portion of the economic development portfolio. Since the initial report was presented to Council in February, we have worked hard to expand the work plan, and we've built comprehensive program components that align with the objectives in priority 3 of our investment strategy, which are business identification and tracking and providing supports to local business. This first slide, I just wanted to give a quick overview of kind of what we're developing as the comprehensive BRE program. So in its simplest description, it's the collecting of hard and soft data in a variety of ways to create valuable services to support our business needs. The programming and components are ongoing and must be able to adapt and shift as the needs, challenges, and opportunities change for our businesses. I'm not going to read, you guys can read the slides. I'm just going to give you quick highlights and try and go quick and get you back on track. So can I change this myself, or do I need you to? So just a bit of a visual here. So I've broken the BRE program down into the 4 areas of focus, which are the green, the corresponding components in the blue, and the tactics that are down in the orange, just to give you kind of a full representation of what's all involved in the program.
Maureen, this is really helpful. Just the one visual as opposed to 4 pages. Very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So just want to highlight just a couple of kind of the main areas. So under the direct connection, so connection with business is one of the most important components in a BRE, and it's how we gather the data, build the relationships, and learn where we need to develop and guide the programs, the events, and our supporting information. So connections happen kind of through 2 main ways, through our business visitations or through incoming inquiries. These are both run on continuous intake and outreach, and the focus can change very quickly based on new information, changes in the economy, or other external factors, both within the county and from the businesses. Using these connections and the information gathered is how we create the programming and events. And I just want to quickly highlight kind of the main 2. So the Biz Exchange, as I'm sure you've heard and are aware now, is our peer mentorship program. It has gone extremely well. This is just a day early. Our wrap-up meeting with the pilot group is tomorrow. And then we will, based on feedback, we'll make a few changes and we'll restart in September for the full year. With very little information and advertising going out there as of yet, I already have quite a diverse list of businesses that are interested in joining in the fall. So we are anticipating having more than 1 cohort group for the following year. The other, as Brad mentioned, is the workforce development, which is another piece in our strategy. And well, I don't have all of the details to share as of yet because our next meeting is on Thursday. So I need council to be next week. It will be regionally focused, and we're working with all of our urban partners. The event will be, we're hoping, a 2-day event that will have 2 educational streams, one for job seekers and one for employers, as well as that job fair component to tie it all together. Fairly early planning stages. Again, I should have more information by next week after our next meeting. And then most of this area is pretty straightforward with supports and data. We're seeing some pretty good returns so far on the newly launched website, our generic email inquiries, and the synergies that are developing through our business community and through our regional partners. I think it's really giving us some good traction for inclusion and growth. Data is being collected both internal and external for tracking and reporting, as well as guiding our ongoing programming. And just lastly, I just had to give you a brief look at kind of what we are hoping for our potential outcomes and metrics. As we expand our programs and awareness beyond our first year, our hope is that we'll surpass all of these projections. And again, that's just a quick snapshot look at where we are, where we're hoping to go, and then once we have that full year under our belt. And that's where I'll stop. And I'm happy to provide any details or answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, a great snapshot about what's happening. One of the questions I have is how do we keep our website? I want to say, how do you refresh it so that if I've looked at it in June and then I look at it in October, it's not the same stuff. Like, is that a constant? Is it monthly? Is it weekly? How do you refresh it so that I keep interested as a client? And yeah.
For sure. That will be in work with comms. But from our internal perspective, I mean, we do, there's a couple of functions that are still in the works to get up and running. But we are, for the end of June, we will have a business-focused economic development newsletter that will be going out. Based on pieces that have already been collected, I believe we have about 350 email addresses to send to directly. Hopefully that will spur more people going on to the website, checking things out. We'll have the events area. And then I think just as new things are coming and we're getting new information, we'll funnel things through to comms is my belief. And we'll just keep updating and adding things as they come up, and hopefully that'll be enough to keep it fresh.
Did you have anything else, or? Well, because again, I think that's important. I think that you might look once, and I think what happens is you don't want to look 3 months later and see exactly the same stuff, because it makes you think, why bother? It's a static website. So I think and I'm just guessing, but from a business perspective, that has to be pretty fluid and pretty upbeat and changed regularly. Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay.
One of the other components that hopefully will happen is as we're collecting all of this data directly from businesses through the programs and events, as well as through the business visits, is to start to get that sense of what businesses want to see
Right.
and how often. And so that'll be a big piece of the data collection as well.
Any other questions? I really appreciated also the outcomes and the KPIs. Who do we work with? Are we working, these are just our own internal KPIs? And so this is just what we're doing as a team, not what we're doing regionally with the other EDOs. Is that correct?
Correct. This is specifically for the business retention and expansion program on kind of our internal end.
It's very aggressive, but I like that. Thank you. Any other question? Councillor Lewis?
How many businesses have you had, or new fresh startups or people interested in starting a business that have just walked in to the center?
That I'm not sure. We've had a few. We don't seem to be getting a lot of new businesses yet, unstarted businesses yet. The amount of current businesses that are starting to stop in or email with various questions, or most recently, I've actually had a few in the last 2 weeks that are new. They've already started, they're new here, and they've come through the website or the email with a specific question, and that's then opened the door to go have that larger conversation with them. But exactly how many have walked through the door, we've all kind of get pieces of it.
Mr. White?
Thank you. Yeah, I can say that we usually get referrals from real estate agents. So we've really focused our attention on, like I said, what we spoke at the Nisku broker event there, having those relationships with them where they come and contact us and ask us for our assistance in that. And like we're even showcasing our region to an international visitor in the next day or two. And that is all arrived from even some internal referrals from our engineering department, from planning. The planning department, some of the planners have our postcards. And so from our perspective and our expertise, well, we are not a regulatory body. We can, have those discussions with them. But I would say so far, where Marine's coming from, those people that we've had people just walk through the door that at this point. So, I mean, things seem to be going in the right direction, and having Trevor show up to go after certain sectors, the future still looks bright for us.
Mr. Grayston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just a quick point. There's around 1,100 businesses in the county. So this Marine's program and portfolio she's chasing is business retention and expansion. Obviously, if we're going to run at around 60 to 100 businesses a year that we're going to have to make sure we touch base, it's going to take us a while to hit all 1,100 in the county. Because as you know, this isn't just about Nisku, this is about all businesses, big and small. We do carry some of the largest businesses in North America with offices here that have opportunities for expansion as maybe they change some of their focus, or maybe they centralize some of their business. So it's really important that we get out and make those business contacts and let them know we're here to help them. And to date, we've had pretty good feedback from those that have been introduced to the team. And I'm looking forward to that continuing, and I believe we will have success.
Thank you. Nice positive comment to end the report. Looking for someone to move that as for information. Counselor Lewis, thank you. Comments, questions, debate? Seeing none, all in favor? That is unanimous. Who's taking the Beck? Oh, boy, you're a new guy. Okay, go ahead, Trevor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'll first start off by saying I can't take any credit for the work that's gone on at the BEC as I recently started, but I'm happy to provide the report. It is our recommendation that the Governance and Priorities Committee receive the BEC Year 1 report as information. Background on this report is Leduc County's Planning and Development 2023 Operational Plan expects economic development to complete and report on Year 1 of the business accelerator / incubator component of the project by the end of June of 23. So Leduc County received funding from Prairies Can to develop the Business Retention and Expansion Center, which was later renamed the Business and Entrepreneur Center, also referred to as the BEC. This project began on April 1st of last year and was completed March 31st of 2023. Through this project, the economic development team assisted 84 small and medium enterprises, created and maintained 32 county businesses through interactions, also trained 143 participants through various events and programs, and as you heard, hosted 4 Biz Exchange meetings with another scheduled for tomorrow morning. The grant funding also allowed the county to hire both the economic development manager and economic development officer in September of last year. Now, the building itself underwent several renovations, including development of a boardroom, 6 private workspaces, and the commercial kitchen expansion, which you heard is now being leased. Since November of last year through March of this year, the center has hosted 2 economic summits, 5 regional meetings, 2 training workshops, 1 business workshop, and 1 pop-up shop. In November of 22, the Growing From Here conference was the first major event at the BEC, which brought local leaders from the agri-food industry together to share updates, stories, and data to local food producers. Also, the Leduc County Business Summit was held in March of this year with a focus on local business retention, business attraction, and announcements of companies utilizing the BEC. Mr. Myron Keene from Edmonton Airports was the keynote speaker at that event. The team also hosted a workshop called Growing Leduc County's Agritourism Potential, which helped develop a database of over 30 agritourism operators in the county. The Value-Added Agriculture Market Expansion Training Program provided key training and connections with Alberta-based brewers, distillers, and meaderies to expose them to international markets and exporting opportunities. Prairies Can funding also allowed us to create the Biz Exchange Peer Mentorship Program, which you heard about from Ms. Easton. This also ties into the Business Retention and Expansion Program, also led by Ms. Easton, designed to support business growth directly by maintaining close relationships with business leaders throughout the county via regular visits. Also, as you heard, LeducCountyBusiness.com website was developed through funding from Prairies Can, providing a centralized location for information and data specific to business needs and helps promote the BEC as a business-centric facility. Finally, the team has begun utilizing the customer relationship management software, Salesforce. This platform allows us to capture every interaction with the business community to help us better manage, track, and report on our activities. And with that,
Okay, any questions? I'm seeing none. Does it smell like a bakery in there? Oh, my word.
Awful. Every single morning when we show up to
Oh,
work,
you're
we smell the bakery.
so unfair.
Thankfully, they don't like wander around and offer very
Oh.
often, or we'd all gain 50 pounds.
Okay, no, it's just nice to have that anchor tenant in there. It really does, I would assume, keep some liveliness in the area. And it's just such a great reuse of a building that was underused and actually costing the county a significant amount of money, something that's actually generating something else. Mr. Grayston?
Yeah, I just thought I'd make a quick comment and thank you to the team over at Beck. We did host our first food truck rally last Thursday. And even in the rain, all but one, right? All but one of the food trucks sold out.
Great.
So it's a pretty big hit. We're anticipating the next one in June here, I guess, or July. And I'd anticipate that to be well attended by all counselors and those that are interested and have talked about it in the past, and maybe are from the eastern end of the county that was happy about the food truck rally. So anyways, good food all around.
The center, a great way to get people to come into the parking lot, maybe take a look around, talk to some people. Absolutely, it is just good marketing strategy.
Yeah, we got a lot of very positive comments, and I was there and wandered around, talked to a few individuals, and, employees of some of our major employers here in the county, and they were all quite enthused and looking forward to having this as that novelty once a month or thereabouts to be able to come over and hear our news, and it'll be an opportunity for us to do more promotion and
Absolutely.
talk about the changes we have. So
Absolutely.
kudos to everyone involved, and happy it was a great success.
And it could be an opportunity to ask for feedback on things that we're doing where we might not otherwise get people to show up. A simple survey on our land use bylaw as it relates to that area or whatever. I mean, people are there, they're willing to do usually. So great opportunities. All right, I'm seeing no other questions. Looking for someone to move for Councillor Smith. Thank you very much. All in favor? That's unanimous. We are at 12 o'clock. Mr. Honesty, will you be back this afternoon for the summer programs and events, or you are? Okay, you will be. Okay, so we will. We're just going to dismiss or recess till lunch until 1:30. Thank you for everybody's input, and we'll see you back at 1:30.
The official Dean Day.
It just means it's a special day for us.
Next week is also Dean Day, and that's the money day, so I apologize.
Is that when you're gonna wear your tie?
No.
Kelly bought you ties, come on.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call us back from recess. June 6th, Governance and Priorities Committee, and we're going to go to report 6A, which is appointment of public members at large, Leduc County Library Board. Mr. Honesty.
Thank you and good afternoon. There are currently 2 vacancies on our Leduc County Library Board. Previously, we had advertised to fill those vacancies in the fall and again in January of this year with no formal applicants. We have now had 2 members of the public step forward and asked to be appointed. They've expressed interest in being members of the community and then contributing to the library. So it's our recommendation to appoint both members for a term to December 31st, 2025.
Okay, thank you. I will make the recommendation. It's great when members show up for our committees and boards. So I will move that the Governance and Priorities Committee approve the application received for 2 members at large on the Leduc County Library Board. And that is Shannon Richter Paul and Christina Turi for expiring on December 31st, 2025 to align with our other appointments. Okay. Comments, questions, debate, motions on the floor. Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous. Moving on to summer programs.
Yay. Watching all this really important stuff happening before lunch.
This is important
and then
stuff happening.
You get even more important stuff after lunch, so.
All right. Whenever you are ready.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm joined here by Sam Lucier, our Community Recreation Programmer, and we're here to share some of the summer programs and events that we have planned for this season coming up. I think you have definitely seen me share about our programs with a purpose several times. All this is probably new for you. So in this, it really means that we create engagement and connection by focusing on the goals that we have seen through our framework for recreation. We use this as part of our guiding documents in order to come up with these programs and events for the community. It's programs with a purpose simply means that it's much more than an afternoon in the sun or a community concert. We're really creating opportunity for engagement, community connection, and places where we can increase social and emotional wellness for our residents. Our programs also include a lot of collaboration and coordination. As many of you know, we work with lots of your halls that you are part of these committees and boards on. So we do have examples of the facilitators that we use for our day camps include some local farms. In fact, Han Family Farms, we have a staff member this year who is part of their organization, and they will be part of our summer camps and providing fresh produce for our cooking camps, and then other things like inviting local producers to come and share their knowledge about their agriculture and their business.
We've used our We've used our online registration system for many years, and we have more than 4,000 accounts. The system is accessible from any smartphone or any internet access. It's easy for residents to navigate. Residents are directed to Leduc County's website, where they'll find a direct link to registration site from a recreation page. Throughout this registration system, we can advertise and promote free and low-cost programs with direct marketing and emails to residents.
Yeah, so this program gives us an advantage where we can pick and choose from people that have come to previous experiences with us. So if you've come to a community event and you've signed up, we can send you an invitation. It's a nice kind of personal feel too. We can send out to people that we know have participated in the past, and it gives us that connection again with the residents and makes it real grassroots, in our opinion. We have another lineup of fantastic staff for this season. We have 3 returning members, which makes it easy for us to continue to increase our training. We have Sam and I are full-time, and then we have back here, I want to call you Megan, but Megan's coming in on the 26th. This is Ashley. Ashley is our senior program leader, so she's been quite instrumental in getting a lot of these programs and events lined up for the season. We have so many staff that bring such great skills and knowledge, and we look for those kind of the diversification in our team. Lots of people that add great things to our season. And then we also make sure that we are asking our staff what they'd like to grow personally in that season, so that we can give them opportunities, whether it being public speaking, more opportunities with children with difficulty, children with behavior difficulties, or even stuff like INVAD's leadership opportunities. So we offer some lots of direct service programs and events. So these are things like our summer camps, our day camp, our drop-in programs, our community events, and bringing back this year, we have our youth and child special trips.
All right. We are offering 6 summer camps in rural locations across the county. As you can see, we are doing cooking, Lego, and sports. These are our most popular themes. So we plan to offer both of these on both sides of the county. Right. Our Park and Play program is a part of our low fee, no fee programming stream. We have planned 28 drop-in playground opportunities throughout July and August. This program enhances the typical playground experience by adding games and equipments for families to explore and build on play each week. This program fosters connections and social developments for community members.
In addition to some of those summer camps and drop-in opportunities, we also run community events. This is where we get to collaborate with a lot of our halls and associations when we go to them and we book space. So this year we have 2 Leduc County Day events, 2 outdoor concerts, 2 ice cream socials, an outdoor movie, and this year a puppet show, which I am personally very excited for. So these events have become extremely important. We've seen it after the pandemic, how important it is for us to continue with these opportunities for people to make connections, create relationships with their neighbors. A good example we had was at Strawberry. We had a harvest festival. We had neighbors meeting each other for their first time and saying, oh, you're the one that just moved in. This is fantastic. Yours is the dog that runs around all the time. So there's lots of really great opportunities that we see while having these events across the county.
And we're happy to be able to bring back our child and youth special trips for the summer season. These trips allow participants to experience spaces and places around the region. We continue to offer rural pickup locations, and parents have provided feedback that they appreciate the multiple locations. These summer day trips provide more opportunities for quality programs and experience for children and youth, in addition to our summer camps.
Yeah, we just had our first one yesterday. It was sold out in about 3 days. So there is definitely the need for it. And we're seeing that very heavily, yeah. In addition to all of the summer camps, drop-in opportunities, we also offer a more flexible and casual way for you to participate in Leduc County events. So that includes these county-wide events and challenges. Some of them are listed here today. So we have our May is Try a Trail Month. June is Parks and Recreation Month. In Parks and Recreation Month, we offer 3 separate opportunities for residents to engage in free opportunities. So like an outdoor fitness class, or what do we have? We had goat yoga last year, which was great. No babies this year, so we're moving on. That might be in July. 2 yoga and like 1 fitness. We also this year are helping celebrate the Yardley Jones 50-mile anniversary, 50-mile walk anniversary. So we have a challenge currently going on right now. We have a very successful Leduc County scavenger hunt. We had over 130 families take part in this program again. It's great because it gets people across the highway. They cross over, they get to see things in their own county, and then they usually plan on coming back, which is nice to see. And then we have our sunflower contest featuring our Mayor DeBlanco again. Challenges.
Interrupt this big.
Yeah. That's
a head start.
We haven't got any photos yet either. Yeah. But yeah, we do get great participation with this program as well. It's nice to see everybody. It helps us in our advertising as well. It puts a face behind a lot of the advertising that we send out, and people can identify with them. We also participate in lots of community association as far as their programming and events go on. You guys are all part of most of these halls. You understand that summer's ramping up and people are getting ready to host their own events. So we do offer lots of support to these community associations in terms of resources for facilitators. We lend out equipment and activities. We even schedule staff to come out and participate as far as face painting or sparkle tattooing to add to these programs and events at no cost. We do offer grant support and then collective event planning as well. This is just a list of the ones that we know about right now. So usually there are a few that trickle in last minute, hey, can you help us? So currently we have 16 events on the docket for the summer. So it's action packed, but it will be great. This program, Star Awards, it has been around since 2011. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. It gives us an opportunity to encourage the future leaders that we get to see during the summer. We did originally come and bring a whole bunch of children and their families into council. They think it's super special to receive certificates from you as council members. Their grandparents are stoked every single time. They get pictures in here. It's a program that we get to give back to these kids. We involve our staff, so they get to choose 1 to 2 children from our program. They get to nominate them. These are children that are kind, they're helpful, they help out other children in camp, they help out staff. These are the ones that they're special to us because they are going to be our future leaders. So we acknowledge them in all the things that they've done in their very short lives. So the other thing I wanted to mention too is this program, we've actually hired several of our Star Awards recipients. So this is something that is nice to see.
That's a great piece.
Yeah, it's really neat to see. They come through our programs. Ashley attended programs. You attend programs, you come through Star Awards, and then you become, volunteer. Hopefully next year we'll have programs back, and then eventually become a staff member for us. So this is really good to see.
Great piece.
Yeah, and so we want to thank you very much for listening to what we have, and we hope that we see you out at some of these places. You guys have no choice sometimes. You're part of the organizing committees at these halls. You have to be there, so we'll definitely see you. Well, we welcome any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments on our summer programs through Parks and Recreation?
Always is, Larry, always is.
Yesterday, we had a chance to meet with the town of Thorsby, and they were talking about their trails, and kudos to Miss Klamosko, who remembered it was called Try a Trail. I couldn't remember the name of it, but they were wondering if we could highlight their trails on our website as well, or if we do that already.
We highlight a portion of them, so that, yeah, so it isn't their entire trail system, but it is definitely included. We definitely nod that there is some there. Please go visit them, but it's not an extensive advertising.
And if I can just add to that, we have a really strong partnership with their administration right now. So when it comes to promoting each other and even partnering, we still continue to do that regularly.
Yeah, so in one of our programs, our scavenger hunt, we have a challenge that was at the trails. So encouraging them to use it, get people to those locations that they may not know existed, and then potentially using them as well.
And the Go Girl event we just partnered with them was very successful as well.
Okay. All right. And again, I think your scavenger hunt was uber successful last time, and the adults I know that took part in it really enjoyed it. It was that right after COVID, right? Or during COVID, and it was a way to get out. But they said exactly what you said. It gave them an opportunity to see the breadth of the county and what there was to offer. And so good on you for keeping that. And I might just participate in that one.
One of our favorite things is that we do video challenges. So we will compile a lovely video for you of all of the silly things that we ask these people to do, and they are so happy to do them. So yeah, it's good.
Okay, there's no more comments or questions. Someone want to move that for information? Councillor Wanchuk, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much, and good planning.
See you in June.
It is June.
Okay.
See you now.
See you next week. That's right.
I can see you now. Okay, on to on to 8A, which is a Q1 long-range planning quarterly update. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I find it kind of hard to follow Lego and ice cream socials. I'm a little jealous, but anyway, my name's Karen Oxley, senior planner, and I'm here this afternoon to share what long-range planning has been working on. First, the Southern Country Residential Area Structure Plan, better known as SCRASP. Council held the public hearing and gave second and third readings for SCRASP on March 14th. The plan is now approved and preparation of outline plan applications may commence. We haven't gotten any in yet, but we're ready for them. Second, the Central Nisku Local Area Redevelopment Plan still remains on hold due to some unexpected circumstances beyond planning and development's control. The needed utility capacity data and modeling is now expected for delivery to the county in Q3. sometime. This unfortunately will push back the timing of the redevelopment plan and the final public engagement. The project is now anticipated to be brought forward to council for consideration in Q1 of 2024. Administration will be coming forward to council with an amended project charter in the coming weeks, once we have a better idea of what those timelines are going to look like. Third, administration is anticipating the formal project kickoff of the 510 local area structure plan in Q3 coming in of this year. Project planning has commenced and planning staff have met with the majority of landowners within the plan area and have generally been met with favorable reception from them. Staff are also working on developing a project charter and scope of work for both internal tasks as well as a request for proposals for engineering and environmental technical support. And administration will be coming forward to council with council consideration of a project charter in the coming weeks. And fourthly, the North Major Area Structure Plan was repealed and the East Vistas Local Area Structure Plan was amended to become a standalone area structure plan by council on May 10th of 2022. Administration continues to consolidate and revise the remaining local area structure plans that reference the North Major, so WAM, the Queen Elizabeth II and the Royal Kibera local area structure plans, simply to reflect the current statutory context. And fifth, the annual reporting and analysis for both the municipal development plan monitoring and implementation projects is underway for the 2022 year. Mr. Ansaldo will be discussing the implementation portion momentarily. And then additionally, our work group has been working through some side of desk tasks to address some of the deliverables from IRIS and the MDP in terms of procedures and templates, which will help improve workflow within and between work groups and with our applicants. And additionally, long-range planning is processing a fairly significant outline plan and redistricting application for the East Vistas. So if you have any questions.
Oh, be interested to hear any more about the East Vistas plan if you can.
There's not much to really speak to with council at this time. Just we have received an initial submission from a interested party in the East Vistas, and so we're going through the initial technical review with staff throughout the organization. I believe they had some initial public engagement at the end of last month, so we're waiting to hear back on what came out of that. And once we get it further into a more detailed report that reflects some of the county's comments and the public engagement feedback, then we'll have something formal that we can bring forward to council at that time.
So new development coming that way. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
And again, I'm looking forward to the name change from East Vistas, just wondering how that's coming along to identifying our residential area. I was through the other day. I don't know if you've been through the Irwin Creek area, Churchill Meadows area. Wow, they're serious over there about the development, the lots, the streets, sidewalks, retention ponds and everything. There's a show home in the middle of a field out there. So we're really looking forward to the new naming. That sounds like some sort of a parks and recreational naming project coming up for that area from the East Vistas, Royal Oaks. Again, it's just an area that is going to become more predominant, and what a great area to attract people that work in the area to live there. But again, hopefully a name change goes into that area as part of the work. Thank you.
Just on that, I'm wondering, I mean, if we're seeing significant growth, I know that there are some responsibilities that the county's going to have going forward. What if I get an update just to a workshop about what's growing, what's not growing, where are we growing to, that whole urban growth node, just to keep us all kind of up to date. And I know there was new show homes coming online. We were expecting a significant number of new homes, but just keep us in the loop. Nothing too big or extensive.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we can take that back and schedule something with administration. We have continual ongoing internal conversations about that, as it's a major development and a major a new thing for the county to be getting into the urban growth business. So we'll take that back and look to find a place where we can have that discussion with council.
And may I ask, is there a third party that is doing the utility capacity data related to Central Nisku Local Area Redevelopment Plan?
So that's a project that's being run through the engineering and utilities group, and they do have a third-party contractor hired and working on completing that document. So our understanding is that we have a draft final document now and just working through some final details on it. So
good, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Someone want to move the report Q1 2023 long range planning quarterly update for information? Councillor Verdi, thank you very much. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. 8B, Municipal Development Plan Implementation Program Annual Update. Mr. Ansaldo, are you the lead on this? Whenever you're ready, sir.
Am I on? I'm on. Excellent. Thank you. Welcome to the annual update for the MDP implementation program. As a reminder, administration has identified 30 initiatives that are called for by the municipal development plan. At the time of this reporting, there are 5 completed initiatives, 14 are considered to be in progress at different stages of completion, and 11 are not yet initiated. In the following slides, the changed initiatives are indicated by an asterisk. So the completed initiatives, and I'm just going to speak to the new one. We saw the other ones last year. So we've now added that the municipal development plan standards for transportation systems were adopted by council in November of 2022. So that completes that initiative off the list. As always, if there are any questions, please feel free to let me know at any time.
Okay.
In progress, we've now added the LASP for land 510 in the employment area, as you just heard. That's underway. Policies, procedures, and bylaws for private and communal wastewater systems is underway. The trail and open space corridor plan is underway. The road dedication policy is being developed, and as well, the development of a long-range asset management plan is underway. And lastly, updates the underpinning studies, the MDP, or some of them are starting up, kind of thing. I mean, nothing has really been added to not yet initiated, so that's all pretty much what it is.
Okay. Go ahead. That was really fast, Mr. Anson.
I'm sorry, I can do it again.
No, that's fine. I was just scrolling through the nice chart that I have very slowly. Go ahead, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Your urban center architectural and landscape design guidelines, understanding how much development is currently going on in the East Vistas area. What's the status that these developers are or the standard that they're developing to right now, if this hasn't been initiated yet?
Through the chair, development at the level of that level would be through land use bylaw guidelines and existing regulations in that area, as well as the overarching guidelines of the East Vistas plan, but the specifics aren't yet developed.
Yes, so the only thing I could add to that is that a development in that area is guided, you know, at a high level by the area structure plan, a little lower level by the outline plans, districting, and so forth. So this is an initiative that is identified in the MDP for administration to undertake to provide a broader and more cohesive set of guidelines for the East Vistas as a whole. That has not been initiated through the budget process yet, but would be contemplated in the longer term work plan. The MDP is underway as well, so there's a chance for council to review those initiatives when that comes forward as well.
Do you see this needing to be done sooner? Growth seems to happen at a really fast rate. Should that maybe be looked at a sooner time frame?
Go ahead, Mr. Coleman.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of council. So the on the ground work, they have to follow our municipal servicing standards. So I don't know if council recalls, not that long ago, we passed an updated version. So that speaks to road width, type of trees, boulevards, all those things. So there's no gap in development. One of the things we are doing internally administratively is we want to look at some of that criteria as well, because there's issues with the current specs we have around operational considerations, which I don't think we've done a good job on looking at. So for example, if your street width is too narrow and you have a vehicle parked on either side of it, and you can't get a fire truck down the middle of it, perhaps our design standard isn't reflective of what works for us. Snow removal in the wintertime is an issue. Where do you put snow if you have a cul-de-sac and everyone has a driveway? There's nowhere to put the snow. These are issues that we want to go back and look at in our internal standards. But for developers going forward, they have the design specs and standards. The development is at a fairly high standard. The challenge always is getting quality developers to come into an area, adhere to the standards and build to specifications that give us high quality product for the marketplace. So
thank you. And my question is kind of related to that, and it's reserve strategy to ensure appropriate reserves for parks and schools. And really, I'm looking at the schools piece. So as our urban growth node, which isn't the name of it, by the way, continues to grow, at what point would we be collaborating with, I would assume would be either Black, Gold, or Star schools to see about a school site?
If I may, sorry, and Jordan will expand on this, I'm certain, but we're in those sort of conversations now, and the school agreements are being updated.
Okay.
And so that work is ongoing.
Because it's in, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is something that's a relatively new initiative, I think. So Parks and Recreation is beginning those discussions with the school board. And so it's becoming more and more of a pressing concern as more development comes along. So we're getting some new interest in the area, and I think it's timely that we're initiating this. And so our understanding is that work is in its infancy, but beginning, and we will certainly be involved in that with Parks and Recreation.
And despite identifying a school site, the development of a school belongs with Alberta Education, Alberta Infrastructure. So even if we had a site now, they would be the ones that would pull the trigger about when that school would be constructed, correct?
that's correct. We don't determine the pace at which schools are built. The province.
Just want to plan for them well and make sure they're well sited within the entire development.
We have an obligation under legislation to provide for sites.
All right, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Your guideline for keeping animals and livestock in residential areas. Can you tell me what the guideline for size would be? Would that include subdivisions, or would that just be land that's residential but not in a subdivision?
First of all, it's important to clarify that that's in the rural county portion of the MDP. So that right off the bat, just to be clear, that doesn't include the Nisku areas. So the guidelines wouldn't be for
no
things
ducks
like
for
the
you,
vistas.
Mr. Birdie.
I've
He doesn't want a duck.
had ducks, you don't want ducks. But other than that, I would say it when it's developed, it'll be more of an indication of what is sustainable in that area and what is acceptable to the community as a whole. That's how generally these guidelines are done. I can't, of course, say what the future this will look like here, but that's the sort of thing that guides the process, is a vision of what's an acceptable number and size and that sort of thing.
And yet, so just to add on to that, that would, in the rural county area, that's referring only to residential areas. So country residential, estate residential, so forth. It doesn't apply to agricultural lands.
Okay. So someone in a subdivision couldn't have a cow, right? Because some of them have horses already in a subdivision. So it's just, what extent do you go?
We wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what that strategy would say at this point. I think that it's been earmarked by council in the MDP to have a look at that. But in terms of what that would actually say at the end of the day, that would be an outcome of that process.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the MDP annual update? I am seeing none. Looking for a motion to accept for information. Councillor Balazer, thank you very much. All in favor? Is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will need someone to move us into an in-camera session. Councillor Lewis, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, and we'll wait until. I'm going to take a look at that, Lori, that I have some time now. I'm going to take a look at the video
Okay.
because I have some time right now.
I'll still make sure.
Okay, yep, of course you will. I know you will.
And I did look up those other things for you as well. So
Oh, the bylaws,
pardon me?
the bylaw or,
Yeah, the bylaw.
and does it say?
There's no specific
Okay.
order. And anybody can make a motion to change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just finishing up a conversation from in camera. And so we are out of in camera. The only motion we made in camera was to come out of camera, and that was made by Councillor Scobie, and it was unanimous. And with that, thank you for joining us today. And we are